Your infantry is painted, your tanks are weathered. You're ready to refight the entirety of the Battle of Kursk. But is that really the best way to start bolt action? Welcome to the Dice Gods, my name is Hydra, and in today's video we are going to look at the smoothest way for you to start playing Bolt Action version 3. In this video we're going to look at simple list writing concepts and a structure for your first game, and also a mission that you can use just to make life a little bit easier when joining in with this quite deep system. But before we get into that, thanks as ever to our patrons and channel members, especially Sean Colburn, Old Man Rogers, Chaos Discordia, and Runic Wolf. You guys rock my socks and are really helping to make more content for the world, just like this video. Thanks also to today's sponsor. Thanks to Lowlands Miniatures for sponsoring this video. Based in the Netherlands, Lowlands supplies war games and accessories to customers across the world, including ranges from Warlord Games, Victrix, Bravo Lima Miniatures, and Army Painter. They offer everything the modern wargamer could want. And now, exclusive to Dice Gods viewers, you can get 5% off of every order from Lowlands from now until the end of July 2025 by using code DICEGODS1 at the checkout. Simply head to lowlandsminiatures.nl or click the link in the description to save on your next order today. And thanks again for sponsoring us. And with all that done, it's time to get into the video, so let's dive into the best way to start Bolt Action version 3. Okay, so for your first game, we are going to keep to the golden rule of keeping it simple, stupid. That doesn't mean to say that you're stupid, that means to say that if we keep this simple, it's going to be stupid fun, which is really important in a war game, let's be honest. What are we going to do in this video? We are going to develop lists for your first game, give you a basic structure to build them around, and then outline a first mission. We're going to standardize as well the content and composition of your lists for platoons and the unit sections within it, and then the contents of that all the way down. Ideally, realistically, you should be playing somebody that's using this same sort of structure as well. There is a reason for that, we'll cover that in a second, but having everything roughly the same on opposite sides of the board, they won't be identical because you can't do the same unit composition between different nations, and there are national special rules that we will be using and would recommend that you do use. But we're just going to standardize the contents of the list down to some basic core ideas. That's going to enable us to ignore deeper rules like indirect fire and vehicles and transports and all this kind of stuff, which, while they're not actually that complicated, if you are remembering what an advance rule does, what your distance that your infantry can move is when they're doing an advance versus when they're doing a run, and figuring out how your pins work and all this kind of stuff, throwing in their armour and then running people over with tanks, because we both know you're doing that the first time you put them on the table, and high explosive ammunition and all this kind of stuff, when you're factoring that into the game as well, it becomes remember this, remember this, remember this, remember this. And with all the useful, helpful cheat sheets in the world, it's still extra rules that you need to remember and apply. By stripping this back to a much more simplified infantry game, which at the heart of it Bolt Action is, you can end up with a much more enjoyable and memorable experience. I've demoed using this system several times, and with all of them we've ended up with flavourful games with the nations definitely having their own feel, but also fun, balanced experiences for all players involved, which at the end of the day is important because we're here for one specific reason and it's not what you think. So why are we standardizing? Because winners learn rules, and that's kind of one of the objectives that I would suggest you have for your first game, is to get the core systems inside of Bolt Action down. They're not complicated. You can talk through them in about 3 or 4 minutes, and then applying them is best done through repetition. In the games that I've had with people, it tends to be around turn 2 that they're doing things and purring along on their own quite happily. They don't really need my input. But why is it important? Less rules is less to remember, as I say. The less you have to think about, the more you can get on with applying what you do need to apply and enjoying the game, which is important. Having clear roles for each unit makes tactical decisions much easier. When you start putting together lists, then you can put together units which can do multiple things, or may not have a very clear purpose in a specific type of mission. They may be less useful here and more useful there, or more useful against this type of unit and less useful against this type of unit. By having standard on each side of the table, they will all have a purpose and it will be very clear of what they're doing. As you and your opponent should be running the same list based on this, you can help each other with the rules and the tactics. You can look at it together and go, okay, well, this unit is supposed to do X, so if I do Y with it, that's probably not going to work so well. That's true. We should try this. You can have that kind of collaborative experience for your first game. Obviously, you're trying to murder each other, but that doesn't mean to say you can't help each other as well. And you'll also be able to understand what your opponent has and so is able to do. As you'll see, we have some long-range base of fire units, we have some mobile fire units, and then we have some assaulting units. If you can see his assaulting unit moving in a specific way, you know where that's going and what that's going to do. You get a concept of it. It helps you make informed decisions in the game without having to know what individual loadouts for individual sections are and what that can possibly mean. Keeps things simple, lets you focus on learning the game, learning the rules, getting those processes down, and just enjoying yourself, which is kind of the point. So what to include? Tally-ho, chaps, away we go. I would suggest around 700 points. It can be more or less. Some of the lists that I put together are around the 690 sort of mark. A few, I think, are a fraction over 700. Nothing really amazing beyond that. Kind of 10-15% either way is about the sweet spot. You should have exactly 9 order dice, both of you. Then there's no disparity of somebody having more activations than less. If you're not familiar with bolt action, if you've not actually read the rules yet, during a turn, all the order dice from both sides go into a bag, you pull them out blind, and whichever die comes out, the person that belongs to gets to activate a single unit or section, with some exceptions, but as a general rule. So having parity of order dice keeps things roughly balanced and roughly equal as you go into the game. You should then have 1 rifle platoon and 1 heavy weapons platoon, and that's it. There is no armoured platoon here, there's no recce, no recon, none of that, no artillery, nothing. Having the same thing, you're going to end up with plenty of flexibility in there, you're going to end up with plenty of flavour in there, but not anyone going completely bonkers and turning up with a Tiger 2 and, yeah, anyway. No. You should also use any relevant national special rules which exist for the army you're playing, except those which confer a deployment or infiltration benefit. We're going to keep deployment nice and simple. As you'll see when we get to the mission at the end, just keep it really straightforward and clear. So, yeah, you're going to have the national special rules. Your Brits are going to be getting an extra shot for every 3 guys in there in a platoon with rifles. That's going to happen, but it's not going to be massively complicated and stupid. We're not going to be using artillery rules for, artillery observer rules for the Brits, which would be a great benefit because we're not going to take artillery observers. Even though you could get one in the rifle platoon, that's not going to happen today. Let's dig deeper. So our army composition. The force platoon should include the rifle platoon, a regular platoon commander with rifle, 2 regular infantry squads with an LMG, 2 veteran infantry squads with SMGs if available, and then a heavy weapons platoon with a regular commander with rifle and 3 regular MMG teams. And that's it. That gets you tier 9. If you look at that, we've got 5 dice in the rifle platoon and 4 dice in the heavy weapons platoon. Nice, simple, straightforward, but lots of flavour and lots of shooty. It's going to be exciting. So, in our rifle platoon, your regular platoon commander with a rifle, he is only 1 miniature, it's the officer with the rifle. His role is to move around with the LMG teams to provide morale bonuses, snap to, and to stay in cover. He basically doesn't want to die. He wants to be keeping the other guys in the game, effectively. That's his whole purpose. So then we have our LMG teams. These are also regular, so we're not going to go for veterans at this point. They are going to have a base of 5 riflemen and 1 LMG. What I mean by that is certain armies will end up with more like 5 riflemen and an LMG. Other armies will end up with 9 riflemen and an LMG. It depends on the national points and the type and blah, 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 blah. So you start there, and then when you've put this particular list into your army builder of choice, whether that's the official one from Warlord or Easy Army or whatever, You put this core concept in, and then you add things. You add riflemen into these LMG squads. Potentially you add more guys into the veteran squads as well, just to get you up to around the 700 points. So the job of the LMG squad is to provide a mobile base of fire. They're going to move, shoot, repeat. That's their whole thing. Yes, because they're running LMGs and they're moving, and they're running riflemen and they're moving, they are going to suffer a negative modifier to shoot, because when you move those weapons, you get a -1 to shoot. But they're just going to be putting volume of fire down the board. That's their whole purpose. With the officer running along with them, so that when an enemy presents themselves at an inconvenient moment, you can activate the officer, do snap to, where he is able to activate other units with himself and just mow the bad guys down. I mean, your opponent down. Clearly not bad guys. Clearly it's a friend, but you know what I mean. Next up, you can have the 2 veteran infantry squads with SMGs. This is a little bit of a knotty one, because some armies can have quite a just absolutely spam SMGs, to be blunt. They can absolutely spam them. Other ones can't. Depends on the nation, depends on the options. If you have an army where it is not possible to spam a large number of SMGs, then fill it out with warm bodies instead. More riflemen, more ablative wounds, more bodies on the ground, effectively. The role of these 2 squads is to get close and then blast the enemy apart with loads of SMG fire, or even assault. If you're feeling brave and you woke up with your brave pants on, you can just charge into the enemy and slice them up close range. When you get into that sort of assaulting position, the SMGs are deadly, but it will be, if you can't get that volume of SMGs, it will be slightly offset by just pure volume of guys on the ground. More wounds, more stabby. It's good to have. So yeah, that is your rifle platoon, the regular platoon commander, the 2 regular infantry squads with 1 LMG, and the 2 veteran infantry squads with SMGs, as many SMGs as you can shove in there. If you can't get SMGs and you get assault rifles, I can't think there's a situation where that occurs, but if it does, take those 2, because they will offset, because they're a bit more expensive than SMGs, but have a similar sort of use within the game. And yes, I know there are certain units that can take 2 LMGs in the squad. Don't do that. It'll unbalance things. We'll start getting large volumes of fire going down the board, and it would just make things a mess. Don't do that. Then you have your heavy weapons platoon. Again, we have our regular platoon commander with rifle. Only 1 guy, only with a rifle. He is to stay with the MMG teams to provide morale bonuses, snap to, and stay in cover. Again, he's there to make sure they don't run away, and when that opportune moment, when the enemy makes an error and leaves one of his guys exposed, to activate multiple MMGs and just go BERT down the board, effectively. That is what he is there to do. To stay, not to stray, in fact. Glorious typo. Then we're going to get 3 regular MMG teams. These are a static base of fire. They are there to lock down fire lanes and to pin the enemy in place, and just to put long-range bursts of fire down wide areas, effectively. That is their whole purpose, and they are glorious at it. And it's at this point that we hit the members section of this video. For our Patreons and channel members, we're just going to quickly run through some sample lists using that structure. So what mission should we play? A kill 'em all mission. The table itself, I'd actually recommend it 700 points to run a 4x4, because it's just simpler to run at this kind of level of miniatures. I'd recommend you have a mix of terrain, making sure there are fire lanes for the MMGs to use and approaches for the SMGs to run up the board. You don't want any one type to have an advantage. If it's too open, the MMGs are just going to mow down everyone that comes up the board. If it's too dense, then the SMGs are going to get too close and just slice people up. Deployment, use the long edge deployment, even though there aren't long edges on a 4x4. It's on page 169, you can find all about that there. And we use the meeting engagement with no reserves deployment method. So that basically means the turn starts, you draw a dice from the bag, whoever's dice that belongs to advances one of their units onto the board. If it's able to shoot, it can shoot, but you're just slowly moving everybody onto the board piece by piece. You can find more details about meeting engagement in page 170 of the main rulebook. And the mission itself, use Seek and Destroy on page 164. It's simply a most kills wins. A kill is a unit which either runs away because it has a little bit of a moment, it gets scared and runs off, or is completely destroyed, as in completely removed from the game. At the end of the game, count the dice to find the winner. I'd run this to 5 rounds. that is more than enough, and will probably take a couple of hours for you to get through in your first game. But yeah, 5 rounds, couple of hours, 9 dice, kill everything. Simple and straightforward. This mission will be really easy for you to play. Just read those pages 164, 169, and 170 to get an idea of the detail of how those go together. But really keep it simple and just focus on throwing dice, having some fun, and yeah, enjoying what you're doing, because after all, that's the point of wargaming. You should be having fun. That is, in fact, an order. And we hope you found this interesting and informative. If you did, please do like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. And failing that, we will see you again soon for more bolt action goodness. Thank you for watching, and goodbye.